Now, moving on from dynamics, I want to cover one more quick thing, and that is cloth in Cinema 4D. And it actually does a really nice job. Cloth can be used for so many things, and pretty much I've used it for more organic stuff like tablecloths, and you can use it for shirts. I definitely like it for drapes, and of course, flags are terrific to do. So let me show you how to set that up. First thing we'll do is set up a collider, and we can just use like a little torus right here. Okay, and of course we'll make it editable, make it a polygon object, and then just simply let's create a plane right here. Okay, and that will actually act as our cloth. We'll use the scale tool. We're going to scale that up, make it editable, and we'll move it up. Okay, now what's cool about the cloth is that it doesn't really take a whole lot to set this up. First thing we'll do is we'll go back, and I just want you to think, with anything we do in here, I want you to think about the process. I've seen a lot of training videos over the years for a lot of software products, and they go through the demos, and they kind of show everything. Let me adjust my microphone. There we go. They show a lot of demos, and they click, 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 and show a lot of things, but I don't think people fully understand the process. And if you do understand that process, it'll be a lot easier for you to set up your own scenes and then take that information and go further with it when you want to create a full, complete project for a client. All right, so when you have this set up here, your cloth needs to collide with something in this particular scene. Okay, so we want this object to be a collision object, and the way you do that is not with a dynamic tag like you might think. I've seen people actually did some training recently in Cinema 4D and automatically think rigid because that's how we collide things, but there's actually cloth tags right here. We'll put collider on there instead. Okay, and you can see there's a number of properties down here: bounce, friction, and so on, but we can leave these just alone for right now. Then for the plane, we're going to right click, and again, not dynamics with soft body like I showed you in the last dynamic course, but in this one, cloth. It's a whole different process. And if you simply just click the play button, you can see gravity applies, it sees the collider, and away you go. Pretty easy to do. Now you can certainly put hypernerves on there for better subdivisions and better deformation. But what's cool about this is that I can sit here and go, 250 frames, for instance, and extend that out, and that way we can see it just doing its thing. And the reason I want to do that is because now we can adjust these guys in real time, and you can see how this is working. All right, so clearly we can adjust the stiffness of this. All right, so I did that. You let it just kind of re-go, and it's, well, a lot stiffer. Works well. Could be good for, cape or maybe a newspaper, something blowing in the wind. Okay, not quite a piece of cloth, but paper. So I'll bring that back down. Then there's this flexion. Okay, now watch this. We'll increase this, and it makes it more flexible. Sort of kind of like a fun piece of rubber. So imagine the wings of a bat, okay, that are pinned down, and the bat's wings are flapping. Okay, you could do an increase on this value here, and you'd have that nice look. All right, and in the next video, I'm going to show you actually how to pin down portions of this so that it can flex. Bring those back down. What about rubber? Okay, stretches. And actually, rubber, even though I want you to consider this more of an elasticity, because the rubber can give you a really kind of cool little bounce in it. Not so much as in a rubber hard rubber, but more of an elastic. Okay, and you would do something like that maybe on a flag, for instance. You could increase that rubber value. Okay, but again, I'm just letting this play. I'm just adjusting these in real time, which is really nice. All right, so then you've got your bounce and your friction. And we'll let this just start over again. So just a little bit more bounce there as it hit. And what about friction? Now with friction, they're not actually bending as much as they go in there. And what if we use tear? See, it starts pulling on the sides there. Okay, now one thing you have to be careful of is that it's colliding within itself. And depending on how you've got things set up, you certainly don't want that happening. And you also need to be careful here too, that too much of these values, as you go back to the beginning, starts bending too much. Now this one's okay, and as soon as we subdivide it some more, it'll actually be pretty good. And there's the tear. Just falls right out. Okay, so a little too much of these, and you're going to start really creating some odd looking things. Okay, but by default, when we had just set up, we actually had a really good initial setup, and you can see we can get a little crazy with this. Okay, a few other things in here. You got different forces. You've got wind direction. The gravity was on by default, which is terrific. A global drag, some wind drag, and so on. So we can easily put wind on here. A dress mode. If we're going to use Dress-O-Matic, which is a way you can literally just skin an object with a polygonal shape, such as a shirt, and it will form fit, which is terrific. And this, we can calculate a cache, so that if you have a larger scene, and of course we've got our very odd cloth going now, but if you have a scene, you can basically render this out, and kind of the way I showed you that it baked earlier, you're kind of doing the same thing. So it's already pre-calculated, and you can see things more in real time. It's really important to do this, especially if you have a system as slow as mine, and you've got a more complex scene. Okay, so you're going to use this a lot. Turn that on, and then you're good to go. And then expert mode, you can increase the subsampling and the self-collision you definitely want if you're doing as much bending and twisting as I showed you just a little earlier. Okay, and we'll leave all these collisions on. Okay, so that's how easy the cloth is. And let's move on to one more video, and I'll show you how you can actually pin things together and create just a really cool flag. Which, again, it's not about creating a flag. It's about understanding how the cloth works so you can create drapes and fabrics and all things like that. So we're going to take what we did here. If you think about this collision, think about legs or arms or something like that. Think about what we're going to do in the next video, and you put those together, and suddenly you can create dresses and drapes and all those good things. So let's move on to the next video.